Welcome to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community, and also giving you a lot of valuable information you can use. Here to kick us off, we have Dr. Deb Macfarlan Enright, founder and CEO, and Pam Bryant, senior consultant, both with the Macfarlan Group. So how are you two lovely ladies doing?
Great, Jeremy. Thanks for having us here.
So let's start out, Deb, let's start out on your end, being the CEO and the founder. Give us a little bit of history for the organization, and also, just for fun, give us a little bit of your music background as well with some jazz.
All right, well, let me start with how about if I start with the company first, and then we can go into the really fun stuff. Thanks, first of all, for having us here. We are just, we're honored. You guys do such great work. And please know that we are the folks who walk alongside or behind the folks who really make the world better. We decided a couple of years ago that the best way to use the talents of experience and expertise that had accumulated over the years would be to find ways to support nonprofit social impact organizations in a way that caused them to be successful and think of themselves differently, right? So I should go on to say that the most important piece, if we can get across today, is that we at the Macfarlan Group do not use the word nonprofit as a category. We believe that for these organizations, whether large or small, pouring 40 hours into one day to make the world better for a person, a puppy, the trees, whatever, that they deserve to be introduced to something other than what they're not, right? So instead of a nonprofit, which is also a 501c3, which also evokes notions of charity, these guys are having impact socially across our world. So we refer to them lovingly and with honor as social impact organizations. So a couple of years ago, thought, how can we really help those people that wake up at 3 a.m. and think about how they can change the world? And we really have enjoyed some success over the last few years and are having just a ball watching these organizations just take flight and soar.
We'll definitely come back and talk about the jazz, but Pam, dive in a little bit deeper to what Deb is talking about in terms of the different areas of expertise, because it's strategic planning, it's leadership development, operational effectiveness. There's a lot of ground that you all cover. So Pam, give us a little bit of a teaser.
Oh, sure. And you truly gave the three core focus areas that we have. And just for me personally to add on and why I joined Deb with the Macfarlan Group is truly that these three services that we do offer, Deb's passion is to make it very affordable to and for me, I still say nonprofit community. I'm working hard on saying social impact organizations. And that is what is so important because from a nonprofit background, we work very hard to put every dollar back into the community to have the greatest impact. And while strategic planning, leadership development, and organizational efficiencies are critically important, that's oftentimes the last place you want to put money. And so this is something that with the Macfarlan Group, we make it very affordable. And that is what initially attracted me to the Macfarlan Group. In addition to, I still get to be a part of the nonprofit world and working with amazing leaders to create positive change in our communities.
Well, I know that you on your end helped combine forces for United Way. And so give a little bit of that, because I think that's a cool newsworthy piece, especially for the Middle Tennessee area.
Oh, absolutely. My tenure with United Way of Williamson County, I was there for 18 years and truly just looking at and as social impact nonprofit organizations, we need to look at this. What is in the best interest of the clients that we serve, our donors, organizations that are partners with us. And just through many conversations, it was the right time for United Way of Greater Nashville and United Way of Williamson County to merge so that combined we could have the greatest impact on the communities that we served. And so after probably close to a year of conversations and working through the detail, we decided to move forward with that. And I remained with the organization for another year just to work through details and make sure things were settled smoothly. And then at that time, I had the opportunity to join Deb.
Yeah. Deb, let's shift back over to you and give us a little bit on the front end of the questions you like to ask, the things that you're looking for when you're sitting down with a social impact organization and you're, and I think, both of you are right. everyone is so busy working to make the world better. A lot of times you don't realize all of the other opportunities that you have at your disposal when it comes to leadership and development and efficiencies, but you need that outside party to come in and say, hey, I know this over here, let me come in and bring it to you, to bear. And so when you're sitting down and you're assessing the situation, what are the things that you're looking at on the front end, Deb?
Jeremy, that's a great question. So I think, first of all, we know that the organization already knows. They have a hunch, right? They have a hunch that their revenue streams aren't as broad as they could be. They have a hunch that they could expand. They're just not exactly sure how to pay for that. So what we try to do in our questions is get beyond well, I've got a new program idea. I just need to find somebody with deep pockets. We really ask them to put on a business lens because they really are running a business. And so we look at that lens about what are the pain points? What exactly what do you want your legacy to be? Why does it matter you're even in existence? And more importantly, how are you working to solve the problem? SAV makes us all feel better, but what are you doing to solve the problem? And we just love working with clients like that. In the strategic planning process in particular, we have this unique proprietary tool that I helped to create with a software company here located in Middle Tennessee that takes them through some operational points. And it allows us in 3 hours, Jeremy, to collect data that would take 3 to 6, sometimes 9 months, and is an additional add-on for staff. Those 3 hours are super fun, aren't they, Pam? They're super fun. And we have the exec team come on, and then we also have members of the board. So talking about just understanding where your organization is in real time and where it needs to go to either complete the goals you have already in place, but those you might be thinking of 3 to 5 years down the road. I mean, it's a marvelous conversation. It's very inspiring.
For each one of you, I'll give you a shot at it, but give me one story that illustrates what impact and success looks like on your end. And so you don't necessarily have to name the client, but give us an illustration of how this plays out. Deb, start with you.
Okay, great. So this is one of our favorite clients. It's been in the Middle Tennessee area for about 18 years. It has really saved the lives of thousands of people in its treatment center. And it has been flying at a very high altitude with wings fixed with Band-Aids and bubble gum. And so we took them through our process, and just 2 really quick stories. They had a hunch. Again, they knew that their revenue streams were kind of strangulated. And through this assessment that we took them through in the strategic planning, they went ahead and did a national search, have now a very high functioning CDO, Chief Development Officer, and the Chief Development Officer decided to create a National Awareness Day, which took place 2 Fridays ago, and is already gaining steam across the country. They also knew that for their treatment section, they could expand that. Weren't quite sure how to manifest that in terms of fees, and now have 3 product lines, if you will, 3 treatment lines that they wouldn't have had before. All these hunches, Jeremy, they know it, but going through this process with us, they were able to say, oh, okay, so that's how we can make it work.
Yeah. Pam, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to say just with our leadership development, the opportunity to work with senior level leaders. COVID, as we know, has turned our world upside down, and staff felt isolated. And so having that opportunity just to work with the senior leaders and to have them to get help them get their staff re-engaged and focused on the mission and the clients they serve, just re-energizing them has just been a very exciting opportunity to be involved with that with a couple of different clients.
Deb, putting on your speaker hat, so to speak, what are 1 or 2 of your favorite tips when it comes to, especially around the leadership side of working with social impact organizations? What's 1 or 2 of your favorite general tips geared toward helping them become more successful?
I think the first is to understand and always remember who you're serving. I think it's really easy when you're trying to manage your organization, no matter if it's a couple people or a large organization, it's who you're serving. And it's to be very allegiant to those folks and to understand them better than anybody else, right? That helps leaders prevent mission creep, which we all know is the vernacular for trying to do too much with too little. So I think it's really understanding and always having present who the constituents are. And then always, Jeremy, you know this as well, what are the talents that are on your board? What are the talents that are on your team? And how do you make sure that they know their secret sauce is essential to the delivery of the mission?
Pam, a little bit of a twist on that for your end is gear that around fundraising. So what's one or two of your favorite tips geared specifically toward fundraising?
Absolutely. Make sure you stay in touch with your donors, not just when you want to ask for money, but you get to know them, listen to them, and as Deb indicate, you learn their talents and their passions, and you help make sure they get plugged in to your organization or even another organization if that's where their talents lie. Because individuals appreciate that when you are listening to them, and it's not just about the fundraising, but in addition to that, you want to make sure they realize the impact of their gift. You know, what are the changes that are taking place? How are they helping move that needle?
Yeah. Talk about on your end, the podcast, some of the information that you're putting out on a regular basis. You have a lot of touch points for the public. So Deb, share a little bit about the podcast and the other vehicles that you're putting out good information through.
Jeremy, thank you. The podcast is it's just a delight, right? It's like what you do. You get to bring in these, I won't categorize ourselves as superstars, so thanks for lowering the bar a little bit, but you get to bring in these superstars and they really get to talk quite plainly about what worked, what didn't. After Mr. Floyd's murder, we did a real considered effort on race, and it was humbling. I took myself really as a white, middle-class, very privileged woman, and was called out several times, just trying to not hit all the landmines. We all learned, and all the listeners told us they had learned a lot and been humbled by the experience. Similarly, we just finished a pivot through the pandemic and had some extremely interesting stories. One from our friends out in California, who were more space oriented to help other social impact organizations. And they quickly moved to becoming a funding model and an information model. So I've been delighted in learning, and I know Pam has as well, in learning how these guys just really kind of stay focused on their constituents, but think about all these other things, and they're so willing to share it with everybody. The blog is really it's a loving project by one of our other team members, Dr. Jocelyn Burdell, who is in Maryland. She is all about leadership. She needed a platform, and so we have attracted people from all over the country to write about leadership, and it's really been fun to watch it grow.
The podcast is 3 a.m. What's keeping you up at night? And then the blog is Blogging Out Loud Now. And so I love that you've got some really catchy titles for the media that you're putting out there. But to your point, anytime you have a chance to engage others and have the dialogue and these learning opportunities, it's valuable, obviously, not just for you and your team, but for the public. And that's an easy way to learn together. What's something, and Pam, you mentioned this kind of going through the pandemic has caused a lot of pivots and shifts. What's something that each of you has learned going through this pandemic that you think is going to make you and your organization stronger?
So I think for me, it's just keep going. Just keep going and be willing to try new things. You know, when COVID hit, we immediately had to go online. And in fact, it provided for us now a global footprint. So we have international clients as well as national clients. And that's because of this is so nimble and flexible. Did we look silly sometimes? Heck yeah. Did the tech not work sometimes? Yes. But we just kept going through. And I think that's what's been helpful for everybody to understand. Fumbling is perfectly okay, as long as your heart's in it and you're trying to move forward.
Yeah. Pam, what would you add to that?
You know, I would really add a couple of things that Deb mentioned. One, I think agencies as a whole really looked at what is their core mission and to make that their primary focus. And while doing that, if they felt there were other services that were needed, I think it increased collaboration immensely. And just the willingness, as Deb had mentioned earlier, to share, you know, information and ideas, and to see, you know, how you make that service available without you taking ownership.
Let's go, Deb, back to the jazz. So share the jazz, and then we'll talk about how the community can help. So let's definitely, I want to hear the jazz story and the music.
That's fabulous. Well, so I have always sung. And when I was in college, was part of a band. And for my, actually for my senior thesis, pose from some other academic stuff. I produced an album, yeah, way back then, right? And then came back home, which is Washington, D.C., and started singing out in clubs, really loved jazz. And so did that for a while, toured on the East Coast in the Caribbean. And then for my final concert, I was at the Kennedy Center, which was really, really exciting.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. So wrap up with how can we help in terms of getting the word out and obviously accessing the media, and then where do we go? So website. So how can we help, and then where do we go?
Well, you're marvelous. Yeah, spread the word. I mean, we are here to help. We help startups all the way to those who've been around for a while. I think Pam has really hit it, that we have been very conscious that we know how important this is, but we also know sometimes it's the last thing to do, and it seems to be expensive. I can honestly tell you we are not. Rather talk with that per client, but we have a very affordable package, and we absolutely love it. We'd love for people just to talk about what we do and share that story. And we're happy to talk with absolutely anybody about that.
So where do we go? So mention your website, any social media, phone number. Where would you direct everyone to learn more?
I think the best place to go is probably the website, themacfarlangroup.com, although we're very active on Facebook under the Macfarlan Group, and Instagram. We're really having a great time with that, and LinkedIn. So we'll always post our podcast. One actually comes up tomorrow on August 4th. It is the final in the series about pivot through the pandemic, and that will go on all our socials. So come join us. We're super fun.
Hey, well, I mean, to your point, anyone who is trying to make the world better and help the organizations, the social impact organizations who are trying to make the world better is awesome. So we love the fact that you're out there powering the good. So Deb, Pam, thank you for all you and your team do. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.